Thank you. Okay, right. Thanks, Steve, and welcome everybody to this morning's sharing on selling at the speed of trust. Not so much the speed of light, but the speed of how you build trust with customers. And why do we say that? Prior to that, I'll just have a brief. I think Steve mentioned a little bit about me. This is more of a formal type of introduction. So I'm bilingual in English and Mandarin or Chinese. I've done coaching, trainings, consulting projects in China, in other parts of Asia Pacific region. You see the book in the right bottom corner. So I just launched a book, Winning the B2B Sale in China. I have also launched earlier last year a scenario-based sales proficiency sales assessment tool. So we will be talking about that, and we will be giving free complimentary accounts on that assessment tool at the end of the presentation. So do keep an eye on that. So the question is, now, if you are in sales, why should your customers buy from you? Not just you and not your competitors, but you and not your colleague, not someone who sits next to you, but customers buy from you. One of the key things is that now we may sell similar products, we may sell similar services. We may even work for the same company and we target at the same customers, but for some reason, even within the same company, we still have salespeople who perform better and salespeople whose sales performance can be better, right? So why do customers buy from you and not your colleague? And it so turns out that, you know, based on research by the company called HR Challenge, you see in the bottom left corner. This is research that was done in the early 2000s. It lasted for around 13 years or so. It interviewed about 80,000 B2B customers all around the world. And one of the questions they asked was, what made you buy from your supplier? What is the key factor that you buy from your supplier? And this is also a current poll that I'm doing on LinkedIn. What makes you, what is the critical factor that creates the most sale? And it's a multiple choice question. There are factors like price, there are factors like product quality or functionality, there are factors like brand, and of course, there are factors like salespeople. And it turns out that 39% of respondents say that the salesperson is the single largest factor in a customer's buying decision. Now, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense in that if you sell a similar position, product or service. If you look at price, there are differences in price, but difference is not huge. If you look at service and quality and brand, there are differences, but difference is not a lot. But if you look at a salesperson, then different salespeople actually has got different ways of servicing different customers. So customers are kind of attracted to different salespeople. And one of the key things that customers want to do is to think about which salesperson, if I'm dealing with different salespeople, which one is the most likely to give me the advice I need to make the right decision. And which salesperson, if I ever need service, if something were to go wrong, which salesperson is going to, if I were to ask for help and get something done and get service done, which salesperson is going to coordinate things internally and make things happen and save me, right? So those are things that customers tend to think a lot when they're choosing which salesperson to work with. So it goes back to the question as in, why should customers buy from you and not your colleague who is seated beside you? You work for the same company, you sell the same products. Customers are thinking about which of these guys or ladies can I trust more, right? And that's one of the key factors. So What we also know that asking questions to customers is important. I think every sales training out there is saying that, oh, you need to ask customers questions. But what if the customer is not responding to your questions? And why are they not responding to your questions? You're told to ask things, right? So customers are not responding to your questions because people prefer to share information with whom they trust, and not just with whom they like. Sometimes we get information from customers say, and I want to buy this, I want to buy that. And we'd like to find out, okay, so who are the decision makers? What is their key priorities? Can we have a discussion with the decision makers? And sometimes we get stonewalled by these customers and say, oh, it's not convenient to say who the decision makers are. You don't need to know that much about our decision makers, or I'm the decision maker, when of course that person is not. Because when you submit the proposal, that person who said he or she is the decision maker then tell you that he or she has just submitted that proposal for high approval. Obviously, he's not the decision maker, right? So people prefer to share information, or prefer to share transparent information with whom they trust. So if you haven't got enough trust with the right customers, then you probably are not going to get enough information. You're not going to get clear information. You're not going to get enough of sharing of information, whether it's information pertaining to a sale, pertaining to their concerns, pertaining to the projects that they're doing, or even gaining access to the people that you need to see, right? So that's the part of it. Now, if you are going to gain trust with customers, you probably will also need to think about, okay, so what goes into the customer's minds when they are when they're buying, right? Especially in a B2B kind of scenario. So generally, when a B2B customer wants to buy something, there are about 3 stages. So within the 3 stages, there are 4 main concerns. So at some point, the customers are thinking about, what pains do I have? What kind of thing that I need to resolve? And if I don't resolve it, it's going to get more painful. Or what kind of goals, what kind of future reality, what kind of future state do I want to get to, right? So it's pains or goals that they are looking at. At some point, you are thinking of that. At some point, they will be thinking about, okay, so if I have a pain, how much do I want to spend to resolve that pain? Or if I want to get to some place in the future, what is the budget that I'm willing to spend to get there? Thirdly, options. What are the choices? Should I choose option A, B, or C? Right, so at some point they'll be thinking about options. And last but not least, they were thinking about risk. Which option has got higher risk, and why should I pay for a higher risk? Which option has got a lower risk, and are they really lower risk? And how do I perceive it as risk? Risk can be things like, if I buy something from you, will it work? Right? Or if I buy something from you and it does not work as it intended to, what is my backup action? Right? How do I justify it to my boss? Right? And so on and so forth. So those are the risks of buying. So customers will be thinking about that at different stages. So in stage 1, usually the customer is focusing a lot about pains and goals. They want to be heard. They want to tell you their pains and goals, and sometimes they're not very clear in their thinking. They need salespeople to ask questions to find out or to clarify what are the key priorities, what is the goal they want to achieve, and what's causing the pains, and how they would like to resolve those pains. So it's a lot of need finding kind of questions happen during this stage. Right, and at the same time, customers also are looking at, what is the rough budget? What is the estimated budget that Steve, we get some feedback in the background. Is someone not muted? Right,
I'll check. I'll check.
Okay, thank you.
I've just muted. I've been keeping a watch. Sorry, I missed that one, CJ.
No worries. Okay, also, people are looking at the budget, and how much am I willing to spend to get rid of pain or to reach my goal? So it's not the budget to bargain with the pricing itself, but roughly estimated how much I need to set aside. It's not the price haggling stage yet. So as you can see, this is a curve. The budget is a curve. It is a thing in stage one, and it's also one of the key things that customers would like to focus in stage three. So it's both sides. Now, when you go to stage two, when customers kind of know, okay, this is the pain I want to resolve, and this is how I want to resolve it, and these are goals that I want to go towards, and I probably have an idea of how much I want to spend, then the next step is, okay, what are the options? What are different proposals? They want to compare between different approaches, different quotes, different proposals, different providers. So those are the part that customers are thinking about choosing options. Now, the danger here for customers is what happens when there are too many choices? Will they get something like analysis paralysis, too many choices, and then they do not know which to choose, and they get confused, right? So at some point, you may need, as a salesperson, to be able to clarify exactly what are some of the criteria that will help customers to make a better choice, right? So that's about options. And last but not least, when it goes to stage three, it's like, okay, customer says, I know what I want. I know which options are great. Now it is down to two potential suppliers. It's A or B. We really want to make a commitment, and I really need this to succeed. And of course, at the ending stage, budget is important. As you can see, it's an uptick. So customers are now really going into price haggling right now. But more importantly is that customers are thinking about, okay, if I go with A, what are the risks? Can they work? Can they deliver the promises? If I go with B, can they work as well? Will the users, will the bosses have any issues with working with them? Have we worked with either of these companies before? What is their track record? If we haven't worked with them, then what is their reputation out there in the market, right? So those are the kinds of risks that customers are thinking of, and salespeople need to work their ways to kind of resolve those risks. So each and every step of the way, as you can see, salespeople are required to demonstrate that you actually care for them. You actually are able to follow their thoughts. When they are thinking about pains and goals, are you able to help them clarify what pains and goals that they need to resolve and how they like to resolve them? When they're talking about options, are you able to help them clarify what is the key criteria and how to help them make a wise decision, regardless if that wise decision is buying from you or not, right? And of course, finally, the risk is in, are you able to build trust enough that they feel that they can, by working with you, they are reducing their risk, or you are able to help them mitigate the risk of buying from you. So those are some of the things that trust goes into a huge factor when buying, when selling to customers. And also, when we talk about trust, the other side is that there is a way of selling. We call it consultative selling, which means we find the needs, we do a diagnosis, and we try to fulfill the needs. So that's consultative selling. The other side of selling is relationship-based selling. And relationships are not generally, relationship doesn't always mean whining, dining, and KTV. Doesn't always have to be that. Relationships, basically, we are looking at is trust. As in, can I trust you enough to share more information? to want to see more of you, and to want you to get to know more of my stakeholders, and I can discuss more with you. So that's trust. So whether you build trust by wining, dining, and other kinds of entertainment, or you build trust by showing your competencies, by your capabilities, those are part of building trust with the customer. So that's how we build a strong relationship. Now, if that is the case, then what is trust? So if you look on the internet, this is what we call the trust equation. And essentially, trust is credibility, which means either you deliver what you say, so you're credible, or you mean what you say, not you deliver what you say. You mean what you say, as in what you say is truth. You don't hide something. The other side of credibility is you know what you're saying. You actually are an expert in your field, and actually you are able to give good and sound advice to customers. So you're credible in your recommendations. That's credibility. Number two, it's about reliability, as in when you say something, can you deliver what you say, right? So the customers are thinking, can I rely on you to get something done? Right? And the third part is intimacy. It's about how frequent you actually talk to customers, and how frequent you get in touch. One of the key things that customers hate about some kinds of salespeople is the salesperson will, prior to the sale, will do a lot of things to make the customers happy, will be very responsive to the customer on a beck and call prior to the sale. And once the sale happens, once the contract has been signed, the payment made, the salesperson disappears and will only reappear when it's time for renewals, right? So those are the kinds of salespeople that customers tend to hate. They like salespeople to be in frequent touch. Not too frequent, but frequent enough to find out what's going on with the customers. Can we share more information? Are there latest things that are coming up? When customers have an issue with whether that issue is going to lead to any sale or not, customers feel comfortable to share things or share their ideas or thoughts and bounce off ideas with that salesperson. So that's the level of intimacy that customers really like. Define it by self-interest. Now, the thing about being a salesperson is this: you're caught somewhere in the middle, right? On the one hand, being a salesperson, you got to think about, you need to serve your company's objectives. You need to drive sales. You need to get money into your company, right? So that's a level of self-interest. You need to fulfill your quarterly or yearly targets. On the other hand, you need to look for the customer. You need to make sure the customers is well taken care of. You need to make sure that you have enough credibility, reliability, and intimacy with the customer. You need to take care of the customer's welfare. So it's a balancing act. So if you do too little of self-interest, then you're likely not to be a good salesperson, because you're not driving enough sales. If you do too much of a self-interest, as in the moment you go to a customer and all you ask about is, how much are you buying that product? What is the volume that you're buying per year? When can you place the order? Can we do business now? Right? If the first things that you discuss with customers are about me, when can you buy from me, and what price and what volume, it's all about self-interest, and it's going to piss customers off, right? Customers are going to be very upset that it's all about you and not about them. So it's going to be a balance. And by the way, salespeople tend to ask about, what is your volume? How much do you buy in a year? When do you usually buy? What kind of products do you usually buy, etc.? That's because it's part of the salesperson's CRM that a salesperson has to fill in, right? We're not saying that those questions are not important. They are important at some point, but they should not be the front and center of your questioning strategy. Your questioning should be focused on about, what kinds of issues do the customers are facing right now? What kinds of issues are the customers facing at the moment? What kinds of goals do the customers want to get to in the future, right? What are some of the options that the customers are considering, etc. So it's about phrasing things more in the customer's role rather than phrasing in your role. That's how you balance the trust equation. Essentially, it's not an easy thing. It's always a balancing act. It's to make sure that you have enough self-interest so that you meet the targets, but have less of a self-interest so that you show care and concern to help your customers resolve the pains and meet their goals, right? So that's how we do it. Now, there's a lot of theory about trust. So how do we put that trust into practice? Oh, before that, I'll talk a little bit about why trust is such a big thing. So Cisco is one of our customers, and this is something that I got from their website. So it's in a public domain. They are not the only guys that have this concept called life cycle selling. You can search it online. It's everywhere, and it usually looks like infinity loop. So many companies right now, the hardware companies, when they're selling, they are no longer selling what is called boxes, right? They're not selling physical products anymore. They're selling services, and specifically, they're selling subscription services. So if you think about Cisco, usually we think about routers, computer hardware, and the like, and then we usually think about just hardware. It's no longer the case. It's no longer the case for Cisco. It's no longer the case even for HP. We think about HP, company that sells laptops and printers. People are subscribing to services, even for hardware companies like Cisco or HP and others. So, and this is how they look at it. So we start at the arrow called the need. So we identify a need, we evaluate, and we help the customers evaluate the need, and then select, go to the option side and select the right product, and hopefully we get to the mitigation of risk, and they purchase, and then they align internally on how they want to use the products, or they align with finance to have enough money budget to buy, and then they buy it. So the thing in the blue is the buying process, and then we go into the using process. We want to make sure that when customers buy something, they actually use it, so they onboard and implement and use and engage and adopt and optimize and try to make sure that they are really happy with our products. And then hopefully they renew. And when they renew, we'd like to recommend more stuff, right? Upgrades and new stuff, new products, and advocate them to buy more, right? And hopefully when it goes in a second cycle of buying, instead of going into needs and evaluating, we actually expand more products that they can choose, more services that they can choose, and they select more and buy more, right? And then this is the model. We're not saying that whether this is going to be successful or not. Cisco paints a very successful story when they shift over to life cycle selling rather than selling boxes. And many other companies are going into this direction as well. So whether or not they're successful, it is a trend, and it is where a lot of sellers are moving towards. So with that, how do we then implement trust in selling? I mean, we look at here and say that, okay, when we sell something, it's no longer the case where we sell something, collect the money, and run away. Right, we cannot do that anymore. We need to sell something and then follow through with the customers while they're using, and hopefully we live up to all of our promises and more, and make them love us. And then hopefully in the following year, they buy a lot more from us. Okay, that's a new way of selling. So if that is the case, trust is going to be featured as a much prominent thing in the near future. So if, there are the four things that you need to know about building trust. How do we do it in real life? So number one is about showing you care. Right, not just care about, are you okay? Are you happy? How do you feel today? Have you had lunch? Not about those kind of caring. Now that works as well, but showing you care that whatever you're suggesting, is it really working for the customer? Showing you care that how's business going now with the pandemic still going, how are they being affected? If they happen to be in a place where there are some kind of lockdown, some kind of challenges facing them because of pandemic or other reasons or supply chain reasons, showing care that how are they coping, and if there's something you can do, whether it's business or non-business, that you can do for them to help alleviate some of those pains or those things. So it's to show that besides chasing after your own numbers, you are also showing care that generally, I really care about you doing good business. In a way, if your business grows, then it's more likely that you are going to buy more from me, right? So it's win-win in that sense. But generally, I really want to see you grow a business. And if there's something that I can help you to make things a little bit better, I'm here to help. Right, so that's showing you care. Number two is to show you can. I mean, you can be a very nice person, but that doesn't mean that you will sell something. You need to show that you are able to put things together. You are able to, if you sell technical products, your technical knowledge has to be good enough to let the customers know what you're talking about. You need to show that you can actually gather your technical expertise internally and bring them to the customers so that the customers can tap onto your company's technical expertise. If you are putting together a proposal, you need to show you can actually put together a sensible proposal, a proposal that works, and actually deliver the proposal. And as you can see in the life cycle selling, you need to show that you can actually follow through and make sure that everything works in place. So it's about showing you can deliver, right? The third part to building trust with customers is about, customers need intimacy. They don't want to deal with salespeople whom they hardly see. So they like to have salespeople who are able to keep in touch. Now, what do you keep in touch with customers, especially when there's no sale yet? You can actually, ask customers, what's the latest development? Are they developing new products? Do they have some latest projects? Is there something that we have that may work for them, even though there's no need? Is there something that we can give them samples, demos when they like to explore more, right? When you have interesting cases that happen with other customers, can you actually share use cases with them? Even better, can you package those cases that you are dealing with other customers and package them as a story and tell those customers' story, right? If it's the customers that have already bought from you, but they bought from you like some years ago and they haven't been buying much, you can also ask them, how's things currently? How are they coping with current challenges, right? Are there ways that, whether it's relating to your business or even not directly relating to your business, that you can help them to alleviate some of the pains? So those are the things that we can keep in touch. Now, one caveat over here is you need not keep in touch with all customers. One caveat is that you probably will want to select and qualify which are the customers that you think it's going to be worth more of your time to keep in touch, and which are the customers that probably you can still keep in touch, but in less direct ways. You may have a WeChat account or a LinkedIn account. You may post some things. You may tag them and show that, hey, we're still in the business. We still have something going on. So if you are thinking of some newer developments, maybe we can sit down and have a chat, right? So you keeping in touch doesn't always need to be direct one-on-one keeping in touch. It can be one-to-one for the customers that you really, really want to do business with them. It can be indirectly or one-to-many for the customers that maybe has got a potential, but you don't really want to spend too much time for the moment, right? And last but not least, it's about keeping your word. If you promise your customers something, make sure that you keep your word. Keeping a word can be for something as small as if you promise to turn up at their office at 10, you turn up at 10. If you promise to deliver a certain proposal by a certain date, you deliver that proposal by a certain date. Now, accidents do happen, delays do happen. So if there are delays that do happen, you actually keep your customers informed as soon as you can, right? So that's about keeping your word. And it works all the way to delivery. So sometimes, especially now when we got a lot of supply chain shocks, you promise to deliver in 4 weeks. And then because of supply chain shocks, it's unlikely to be delivered within 4 weeks. So what you can do is actually think about if you have news that the shipment is going to be delayed, can you inform the customer that the shipment, because of whatever reason, is likely to be late? I will keep you informed. And if there are alternative plans, I'll keep you informed of that as well. If there are latest news, I'll let you know. If we can get it earlier, I'll let you know as well. So it's about trying to keep your word and keeping your word as much as you can. And if you are not able to keep your word for whatever reason, you are actually keeping in touch with the customer to make sure that they know you are on top of things. Right, so that's about the 4 things. Just very simple: show you care, show you can, keep in touch, and keep your word. Just 4 things to build trust with customer. Now, talking about trust and relationship. So a lot of times we talk about relationship as part of wining and dining and lots of entertainment. It may be done that way. It need not always be done that way. We just think about just in the Asian context. Well, why do we like to eat, and why do we like to drink, right? And why we like to give gifts, right? In Asian culture, so part of that Asian culture thing is that in the more industrialized countries or the earlier industrialized countries that were earlier in the Industrial Revolution. So it could be England, it could be Western Europe or Northwestern Europe. Those countries tend to have a bigger trust, not in interpersonal relationships, but bigger trust in the rule of law. So we've got contractual laws, and if something were to go wrong, there is always litigation. You always can get recourse by going to a court of law. Now, in other parts of the world, not just Asian, it can be African, it can be Latin America. In other parts of the world, when industrialization comes at a later time, the focus is, if we want to do business, I need to make sure that I can trust the person that I'm going to do business with. So how do I build that trust with that person that I'm going to do business with? One way to build trust is to have a meal. And when we have a meal, we drink something. And when we eat something, when we eat or drink something, we get more relaxed and we tend to talk more. We talk about intimacy and talking a lot more and have mutual sharing. So we talk a lot more about how we grew up, where we studied, where we've been to, what kind of work we've done in the past, what's our family like. So when we share more information about ourselves, it actually builds trust, right? And it's not just me and as an Asian that we are saying this. It happened in a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of Leadership, right? So it came from the Western book as well. The more that we share about ourselves, the more likely that we are going to build trust. So as part of Asian culture, sales culture, vis-a-vis the Western sales culture, drink and eat too, but usually that happens after the sale. prior to the sale, the Asian sales culture is, in order to get to the sale, let's eat something and let's drink something and let's get to know each other. And if I can trust you as a person, you are the salesperson that I can work with rather than your colleague, right? So going back to our key question at the beginning of this presentation. So that's part of the reason. So it does not always mean that all forms of entertainment are to do with non-compliance or corruption. Sometimes it's just as a means to build trust, right? Whether you build trust before or after the sale, that's besides the thing. Sometimes you just want to have a meal and have a drink and just get to know each other and build trust, right? So, and also when you give gifts, right, it's easy to splash money. Right, it's easy to spend a lot of money and give a very expensive gift, but it's always the thought and not the price of the gift that matters. So it's about, are you able to find out what the customers need and not what you think they need? So sometimes, in the old days in China, there are many parents of students who like to give gifts to the teachers, right? And sometimes some parents will just say, okay, what's the latest iPhones? And just get iPhones, and the teacher end up having lots and lots of iPhones in the collection, and they don't really know what to do with it. Maybe they sell it as a second-hand iPhone, I don't know. But it's just parents dumping on gifts on certain teachers. Now, we're not going to go into whether the teachers are corrupted or not, but think about this. Not all teachers want an iPhone. Sometimes some teachers may have some further needs. They may have children who needs to study overseas. They may have children who is trying to get a job. They may have they may have just finished renovations for the house, and they just need some artifact to or some art pieces to decorate the house. It's not about what you think they need. Is there something that you can do for them, hopefully in a compliant manner, that really address their needs, right? Because we're not going into compliant selling. We sometimes talk about it. We can go really deep into what kind of gifts are allowable and what kinds of entertainment are allowable, and varies from company to company. It varies, of course, from country to country, depending on the compliancy laws up there. What I'm trying to say here is, sometimes giving gifts is a lot more challenging than buying drinks and food. Giving gifts is really knowing about what happened to that person at that point of time and giving them just what they need. And right now, in the context, even of China, even with a lot of countries in Asia, we got to think about, okay, if that's something they need, and if I'm going to give it to them, is it compliant? Right, and compliance is going to be an issue that a lot of companies or a lot of salespeople are facing at the moment. So if giving gifts are so darn difficult, you might as well fall back on the whining and dining. And at the very least, a lot of compliance issues you can overcome by saying, if I'm going to buy a customer lunch or dinner, what is the budget to fall under compliance requirements? And we can work something on that. If you want to go on gifts, it's a lot trickier, right? So it's something just a segue to talk about, the Asian culture of viewing on relationship and how that has an impact on trust. Now, most of the time when we talk about trusts and what do you call relationship, it's got to do with empathy. And empathy, like I said, it's really thinking about what the customer is really thinking of. So rather than telling you what is empathy, let's do some interactivity over here. So let's say, I'm meeting customers, and let's say you are meeting this customer for the first time, and after exchanging pleasantries, how would you want to start the meeting with this new customer? So number one is to, as a starting, find out what common hobbies and interests that you both have. Number two, ask questions, find out their needs. Number three, let the customer know the purpose of your meeting and gain agreement on the discussion topics. Number 4, start by presenting your solution. So in the chat box, if you have chat box, I'm just going to type a random number. So if you can type in your answers on a chat box, and let's have a look at as to what do you think would be a good way of trying to show empathy at the very beginning of a sales meeting. Can be an online meeting, can be offline meeting. What will be a good thing at the beginning of a meeting? Now, I know in Asia that we usually will exchange name cards, exchange some drinks, etc. So what happens after that? After you exchange name cards, after you ask about, is it easy to come to our place? Is it really cold out there? And then some niceties. How would you want to start the meeting proper? What would be your answer? So I'm opening up a chat box. Anyone wants to? Would like to key in your solutions. Okay, Dirk says 1. Yep. Maybe that happens in Japan. What else? Any other answers? Where's everybody? Are you really on this meeting, or are you multitasking? Barry says 1. Thank you, Barry. Eric 2. Ask questions. 3. Yeah, Xiaowei, hi. Right. And all the 3s came too. Great, thank you. Now, this is part of our sales assessment. It's all scenario-based, and we have 33 different scenarios. We ask people questions. The best approach, optimal approach, is actually 3, right? The best approach is 3. Why we're not going to find out common hobbies at the beginning? We're not saying finding common hobbies is bad. It's just that if the other person doesn't really know you well, and they are trying to say, hey, what do you do for the weekend? It may sound a bit odd. It may sound a bit like you're trying to get close to the person when the person doesn't really feel that close to you. So it's not the right time to raise it at the beginning of the meeting. It is a good way to raise at the end of the meeting. So we had a meeting, we had a discussion, and then you kind of feel closer together. You have exchange information. So 1 is actually something you do at the end of the meeting, and find out on your way out if the meeting went well. You ask the host, so what do you do on the weekend? What do you like to do usually? And you exchange hobbies and interests, right? So that's something you do at the end, not at the beginning. You don't come in and ask questions immediately either. Because if you have a 1-hour meeting and you start firing with a lot of questions, the customers are going to feel very intimidated. The customers are going to feel that, are you really a salesperson? Or are you some kind of investigator, someone from public security, right? So asking questions is great, but you don't want to start with asking questions first. Neither do you want to start with asking too many questions. So let's say 3. So 3 is the best part is to just let the person know, hey, today I'd just like to talk to you about helping you improve productivity by 10%, or helping you to export your products to Ghana or some parts in the world, right? So is it okay that we can explore this topic? So it's to set a mutual expectation, gain some kind of mutual agreement, and let's talk about it. Right, so 3 usually is the safest choice. And of course, none of us are saying number 4, because number 4 is you don't know their needs yet, and start presenting, and usually it doesn't land well. Right. One more quiz. When I'm following through with the customer, after some discussions, you submitted a proposal. Your contact person then told you that she would submit your proposal for higher level approval, despite telling you earlier that she is the decision maker of purchase. So that person says, I make decisions. And then when you submit it, that person says, I've submitted for approval. Doesn't make sense, right? So how likely would you respond as follow? So number 1, just do as told, and still channel communications through that contact person. Number 2 is to ask that contact person why she didn't mention the higher approvals earlier. Number three, ask the contact person what will be the key priorities of the higher level management people and send an amended proposal. Number four, ask to meet up with the higher level management powers that be. So what would you to do? Okay, so Chinggis, like Genghis Khan, say number three. What other, anybody else? What? Do as told? Anybody else? 1, 2, 3, 4. What will be? I'm going to say that there are two answers here. There are two answers here. I will say 3 and 4. Thank you. Right. So without further ado, I'll just say, yeah, the answer is 3 and 4. Right answer is 3 or 4, depending on the situation. Why we don't want to do as told and still channel communications through that person? Eventually, we may have to be forced to do that, but it is not ideal in the sense that, okay, you now know that someone at a higher level is going to do the approvals. Now the question is, you have been talking to this contact person all this while, but you know nothing about what the higher levels really want. So unless that contact person has been really telling you what the higher level people really want, which in this case, that contact person actually told you that no, she is the decision maker. So there's a high probability that you don't quite know what higher level wants, right? And if you were just to do as told, you may be missing not much response because everyone is muted. Yeah, I'm just using the chat box, Steve, no worries. Yeah, so if you just do as told, you may still not be having the right kinds of information. And in this case, you may be, there is a possibility that a contact person may want to block you from more information. So what you want to do is to see whether you can gain access to more people and more information. So you can ask questions. So if you want to have a try, you can try and ask to meet up with higher level people. It doesn't mean that 3 is always the case you go to. You can ask that, no, is it okay that I can, since it is higher level approval, is it okay that I can schedule an appointment? The contact person may say yes, she may say no, but if you don't ask, it's always a no. So you can ask that. And if it's a no, then okay, so if I can't see that higher level people, then can I find out what are the key priorities? And then hopefully that the contact person actually are able to be candid about it and share with you. But the really ideal situation is to try to secure an appointment with the higher levels as and when possible. The contact person may not be as candid. The contact person may have a misunderstanding of what the higher level people want, right? Or the middle person, the contact person may just make it up, right? So we don't know. So by and large, strive to see the higher level people. If that fails, then okay. So what is your boss thinking about, right? We can do that on a later part, right? So I've done my part, and if you feel like talking, before I go into the freebies, after the slide, there's a freebie, right? So don't go just yet. And I've made my presentation. So what is your key takeaway today? And any comments? Anyone would like to unmute, or if you'd like to type, you can type into the chat box as well. Any key takeaways today? Do we trust? Thank you, Chinggis. Anything else? Life cycle selling, yes. Thank you, Ryan. Yes, it involves many others in an organization. It's no longer selling something and just run away. It's selling and then you need to service them. Yeah, it's in a way a game changer in many times. And as I see a lot of companies in different industries going into that direction. What else? Another approach, to after sales. Yeah, I mean, after sales is not just making customers happy. After sales is find out more needs and sell more. So after sales becomes more strategic and more important in that sense. Any other thing? Okay, well, keep on typing. Well, show you care. Yeah. It's the ongoing service and it's important. Yes, absolutely. Don't just sell and just run away. So get a free sales assessment tool, and this is how you do it. If you can go to the website, go.od-tools.net and key in the code SalesMap. We have just sampled 2 of the questions, so I have already given the answers of 2 of them. So you should score higher by now. There are 33 questions, scenarios all together, so 2 of them have been shared with you. If you want to have a try and have a go at it, please feel free to just log on. And it follows the sales processes from prospecting and preparation for the sale or for meeting customer, to engaging and meeting customers, to following through and through to negotiating. Right. So do that and feel free to do that, and then I'll generate a report for you. Right. Maybe I got why my clients like to purchase with me now. I give them the trust and keep my word. Great, Giselle. I think if you do the test, you're going to score very high. Right? So, Steve, it's not just the silo is important, but also the code. Without the code, yes, go to SalesMap. Thank you. Right, and further questions. I mean, if you are in China, feel free to. Oops, that took so long. Feel free to what I call scan the QR code. This is our WeChat account. We have weekly updates on various parts, so feel free to join. If you're outside of China, feel free to link me on LinkedIn as well. So the LinkedIn part is also online. And I'll just hand over the time to.